Hi, welcome to Unity Spiritual Center of Lansing. I'm with you this morning to share some words of inspiration. Hopefully, they will inspire you. And just to connect as we go through this new series, A Trace of Scarcity. And today's lesson is Upgrade to Life 202. And we're going to begin by going to a song that we've sung oftentimes when we were meeting together in person. I love myself just the way I am. So you're welcome to sing along. The words are going to be right there on the screen. Be loud, sing heartily. Beautiful golden.
I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. Always be the perfect me. There's nothing to rearrange. I'm beautiful and capable of being the best me I can. And I love myself just the way I am. Just the way you are, there's nothing you need to do. When I feel the love inside myself, it's easy to love you. Behind your fears, your rage and tears, I see your shining star. Just the way you are. I love the world the way it is, 'cause I can clearly see that all the things I judge are done by people just like me. So till the birth of peace on earth that only love can bring, I'll help it grow by loving everything. Myself the way I am, and still I want to grow. But change outside can only come when deep inside I know I'm beautiful and capable of being the best me I can. Just the way I am. I love myself just the way I am.
Love that song. A reminder that we need to love ourselves. Well, last week when we started on this series, we talked about life in the circle and how very often we're standing outside of the circle, we think that we don't belong. And belonging is like hot wired into us. We want to belong in our tribe. And we discussed that really the only thing you need to get into that circle, into that flow, into that cycle of abundance, of belonging, of just being in one with the universe, is simply to say, I give my consent. Consent to know that you do belong, that there's nothing you need to do. Just love yourself the way you are and give yourself that consent to be part of the oneness, to be part of everything. So I have a question for you now. What is going through, well, let's stop that one. What is going through your mind right now? Do you know, though we have conscious thoughts, there's other thoughts that are going around in the background, kind of white noise, or sometimes we used to call it a tape, the tapes that were running before we went to CDs and online sound. But it's just if you stop and listen to yourself, the thoughts that you're thinking, there's thoughts behind them, these thoughts that you entertain, or sometimes they entertain you. These are thoughts too that we even maintain because they are our story deep down in the cells of our body. Very often, those thoughts might be something to the effect of, I'm not enough, or how about, there's never enough to go around. Like there's always going to be a shortage. Oh, it's just so hard. Life is just so hard. Nothing comes easy. You know, if it's worth anything, you have to work really hard to get it. Or how about, that'll never work. You know, somebody gives you a possibility for how something can be solved. Oh, that'll never work. And all these thoughts of themselves, I mean, we all have them, but the ones that we maintain and sustain within our minds becomes our story. And these erroneous thoughts, these illusions, we start treating as truth, that these are the truth, the way things really are. And not only that, we will defend the truth of these statements. And, you know, well, you will make such a case for them that you'll convince yourself even more. We will go to no ends of the earth to prove the truth of our limitations. Richard Bach said, argue for your limitations, and they are yours. Have you ever seen a hypnotist on a stage show, and he'll get people up and hypnotize them, and they'll do things like, I don't know, squawk like a chicken, things they wouldn't have ever done if they weren't under hypnosis. Well, that's kind of what it's like when we're in this trance of scarcity. We do things that are really not in alignment with our nature, not in alignment with the truth of who we are. It's like we're in this trance that allows us, or even causes us, to do behaviors and think things and limit ourselves in ways that are counterindicative to our true potential. Here's the definition of the trance of scarcity: the unexamined predisposition that lack, struggle, and separation are our defining reality. That lack, struggle, and separation defines our reality. We know that isn't true. We know this is an abundant universe. But yet the stories that go on in our heads, the stories that we can make a case for about why the universe is a place where we struggle, where we're limited, we really struggle and commit to those limitations time and time again. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that people can only see what they're prepared to see. So if we live with these stories, if we concretize these stories, that is all we're able to see. We're not able to see the infinite abundance of this universe. Einstein, I think, pointed it out very well when he said that we cannot solve problems on the level that we've created them. So if we've created this problem within our life by buying into this limited thinking, we need to find a way above that level of thinking in order to resolve and to dissolve these stories that we've been carrying with us. It's been said that the world is not made up of atoms, but it's made up of stories. Think about that. We really have made up our world by stories, one story after another. And you can kind of see where it came through culturally if you look at through the years. First of all, they've shown that whenever we are in a state of sustained fear or anxiety, it actually limits our higher brain function. And I think about all of us together, what are we now, month 7 of this world pandemic, and all of us are dealing with a certain amount of fear and anxiety. There is no time out. There's no break from it. This has been constant since March, that we are living in a world that has this invisible virus that's going around that can be deadly, can certainly be devastating. And of course, it's going to create some fear and anxiety within us. And when we do that, when we have that happening, our thinking actually gets a little bit limited, a little bit shortened. We don't quite allow ourselves to imagine a world that's free of this. And especially when we can't even get a break from it. This is constant, ongoing. So, but if you look back, knowing that we humans are storytellers. We want to make sense of things. So we make up stories. We're very good at it, very good at these stories. But also, there's been some cultural things that have impacted our stories. Back in the 1700s, when science was kind of blooming, Newton and Descartes came up with these ideas that there was spirit and there was matter, that these were two separate things. And boy, how many times do we still struggle with that story, that spirit is every place, not two separate things. But what they said within this, not only are they separate, but mind matters most, that the intellect really was over everything. And then when you see where the United States was founded, the people that came here, the Puritans and the Calvinists, they had a wonderful, powerful story about humans are essentially flawed, that we are inherently wrong, that we are limited, that we are not worthy. And these kind of stories kind of underlay our culture and have done so for hundreds of years. And then, of course, we have this culture of capitalism. And within capitalism is this idea that not everyone can win. There are winners and there are losers. There's not enough for everybody. So some get and some don't. And of course, we want to be on the side that gets. And if we don't have stuff, then we obviously are on the losing side because we're not worthy. And so the story goes on and on and on, and we can certainly support it. It's really about the words that we tell ourselves. You know, what kind of language do we use as we're going through our life? What kind of language, even more importantly, do we use in our thoughts and the way we talk to other people? What words do we choose? Now, I don't know how many of you have seen the work of Dr. Emoto, but he did some amazing work with water that he found the impact of words actually change the crystalline structure of water. He would take water in containers and tape words to it, and then he would freeze parts of it and get these pictures of these crystals inside. So I wanted to share some pictures of that with you so you get an idea of what exactly it was that he did. So here's a water crystal that had been in a container that had the word compassion on the outside of it. It's beautiful, just as beautiful. If an angel was a hexagon, I think that's what an angel would look like. Now down here, this is water after it's been exposed to heavy metal music, which has a lot of discord in it, a lot of just rugged kind of sounds and rhythms. Here's a couple more. Look at thank you at the top. The word thank you, the idea of gratitude makes this beautiful crystalline structure, where another container had the words I will kill you on it. Very disharmonious thinking. And look what happens to water. It is just a blob. It loses its form. And then here's wisdom on the top. Isn't that beautiful? I like to think of wisdom looking like that. And if the word you fool, this insult to another person, look what it does to the structure. It's misshapen. It's not pleasant to look at all. And then here's another one I wanted to show you. This is water before and after Buddhist prayer. This is contaminated water. They prayed over it, and look at the form that it took. It tells us the power of our prayers, the power of our words when they come from our heart and have that deep intent that goes beyond the intellectual thinking, beyond the mind. This is that connection between mind and spirit. It actually has an impact on our physical world. Actually has it, and remember, we are, I don't know, 95% water. We're mainly water as we go through this. I'm going to stop this right there. Okay. So knowing that the words that we speak and the words that we think and the words that we feel, because a lot of these words really bring up emotion for us, actually have an impact on the physical world, as well as an impact on our health and our well-being. So if we're going to upgrade our stories, well, first we need to recognize that one, we can upgrade our stories, and two, that we have a story that could use upgrading. I mean, sometimes we think, oh, my life's pretty good, and we're so used to the story we've told ourselves that we can't see any reason to change it. So I'm going to ask you to think about a time, maybe you just moved out of your home, your family's home, your parents' home, and you got your first place, and you probably took some secondhand furniture with you. Most parents have a piece here and there that you incorporate, and maybe it's a rug. And this rug you're very attached to is like that sense of home. And every place you move, you drag this rug around with you. Then finally, you end up at a place where there's quite a bit of light coming in, and you look at this rug, and it is pretty worn, shall we say. And you realize it's time for a new rug. The light finally shone that it's time for a new rug, and you let it go. You bless it, let it go, and you get a new rug. And it may take a little while getting used to it. Maybe the other rug was so thin that this is so much thicker that you might even trip over it a few times. But you know that ultimately, this is where you are now. This is now your home, your story. The same thing happens with the stories we tell ourselves. It may feel a little uncomfortable as we change them. We've had them for so long. It's like saying goodbye to an old friend. But there comes a time when we realize that this story doesn't work for us. And I think particularly in the conditions that we're in now, it is so easy for those stories to take on new shape. There's new evidence to prove that they are true. You go to the grocery store and the toilet paper shelves are not all full anymore. The paper towel shelves are not all full anymore. Sure looks like there's scarcity out there. See, you can make that case. But when we make that case, I like to think of it as us becoming fictioneers. And in truth, who we are essentially is Imagineers. We have this incredible possibility within us to create, to co-create in our world that which we truly desire in our heart. We also have the ability to co-create that which we fear, that which causes us anxiety, that which is limiting. And I think about us as a community, as a unity community. And it was like over 10 years, we lived with a story that we were yet to find our new home. We rented places for a while. We bought land where we were going to buy. We moved. We did this and that. Even as we were over on Home Street, we kept saying we'll find the right and perfect home. And then we came to a part where we said, maybe this is it, and we just need to make some changes to it. And then, after over a decade of struggle, of imaging, of working on it, of doing everything physically possible that we knew, we came to a dead end on what we fictionized, perhaps, that we have still to find our new home. And as soon as we let go of that story, what happened? But this new home appeared that in looking back, you see all the things we ever imagined, all the possibilities over very different incarnations and trials of as we were looking to find that right and perfect home. We are now ready to write a new story. It's kind of a turning of a community. It's just, as I stand here today and look back, it seems like such a straight line. But when we're in it, it was like we were going around in circles and through thickets and up hills and on rocky terrain. But as the outcome of it is coming to fruition with our new property, as we're going through those steps to finalize the sale, we see a certain ease and grace. And at the same time, as we come to that point of ease and grace and joy, because we are incredible Imagineers, these are really heart manifestations that is coming for this community. We know that other things are going to end. The search is going to end. The story of us looking for a right and perfect next home is going to end. Our roles are going to change. Those roles that we had as lookers, searchers. We have now become a community of finders. We have found what we are looking for. And in that, as the story shifts, there's this great sense of energy as we're finding open doors, open windows to new possibilities. I have not talked to one person yet that has gone out to the new property, to what I like to call the Unity Campus, and has not been filled with ideas of ways we can be in service to others, of ways that we can create more joy, more peace, more happiness. Just becomes this open door, this new story of possibilities, as opposed to the past stories that always seem to end up with a dead end. Wow, it's just amazing to watch it actually happen in our lives, going through the wandering in the wilderness for over a decade, and really to now see the promised land. Well, all of us, that's as a community, and sometimes it's a little easier to look at as a community about these stories that we're giving up. But each of us has personal stories too. Many of them were written when we were children. There's a story of this one lady she was really ridiculed as a child. Every time she made a mistake, her father and her older brothers would always make fun of her. So she learned that in order to cope with that, she would become quiet and kind of make herself invisible because she just felt dismissed. And she didn't want to, if she became more visible, she might do something wrong again and get put down again. So as a child, she learned to make herself invisible to make this happen. But as she grew into being an adult and she got married and she had kids and they would be entertaining, what would happen is she would become a bully at entertaining. She would yell at everybody in her family about this is right, this is wrong, you got to fix this is not the way you do this. And so by the time they had this little social event, everybody that came was very happy, but her family was very unhappy. And she realized there's something going on here. I'm not quite sure what it is. And so what happened was she had learned and created a story around that she was flawed. And she was so afraid of things not being correct, so afraid of being criticized for something that she did, that she became a control freak to make sure everything was exactly right so nobody could fault her for it and therefore dismiss her and therefore make her invisible. Wow. Yeah, some of us might have some of those, a similar story ourselves. Whatever we're doing now very often is the outcome of a story that we created many years ago, most likely. And so as she moved out of that, need to be a bully to survive, to be part of a tribe, because we all want to be part of the group, we want to belong. She came up with some new lines for her story that didn't happen overnight, but it helped to shift her. She started telling herself the story that I belong just as I am. And how about a bigger one? Last week we talked about, is the universe friendly? Wow, the universe celebrates my existence. I'm not in anybody's way. I'm not a thorn in somebody's side. I'm not something to be hidden. The universe celebrates my existence. God is thrilled with me. God is thrilled with me, not disappointed. I can't do anything wrong. It's all part of the learning journey. How about all of my actions are inspired? A reminder that we're always connected, that the things we do, sometimes we're not always as skilled as we might be, but it is inspired by our growth curve, our learning curve, our being in the flow. And that in this guidance, we are guided to do what is required, what is ours to do, not what is for everybody else to do. It's not our job to make perfection for the world. It's not even our job to make perfection for ourselves. It's our job to be ourselves. You know, sometimes we could retire from that career of self-improvement. A lot of us are on that track. Always we need to improve. That's why I love that song this morning. I love myself the way I am. I still want to grow, but there's also perfection in the way that we are now. Well, we may know that we need to change some things. We may not know specifically where those stories came from, what actually started the stories within our life. And the great news is you don't need to know why. This is not about why. This is about how you want to be from this moment forward. And, you know, to give up the why, where it happened or who was involved or how that started, we can have a tendency to think, okay, if I know why, I can fix the past. And that I can tell you definitely, you cannot change the past. The past is exactly what it is. It's past. We want to move into that area of being in a present moment that is absolutely in the flow. Excuse me, because that's where abundance is standing in that flow of life, that flow of the universe. Whenever we feel fear, whenever we feel anxiety, that just like squeezes the flow out. It's like, you know, taking a huge hose and putting a kink in it and the flow stops. We want to stand where it's wide open to all possibilities. Contraction of any kind, contraction of our heart, contraction of our spirit, contraction of our attitude towards life creates a sense of scarcity, actually creates scarcity itself. If you want to find out if you're choking anything off, just take a moment and feel your breath. Now, many times we're almost holding our breath. There might be a tightness in our chest. Just take that deep breath. It's a really good reminder just to say, are you in the flow? Are you free? Are you in the abundance? How deep is your breath? How far are you ready to flow? How easily are you ready to flow? So part of it's language, like I mentioned, that we can have language that's kind of lavish. It's wholehearted. It's just filled with that buoyancy, that sense of abundance. Or we can have words that are kind of stingy. They're constricted, they're conflicted, they're contracted. They just are very limiting because there's this deep sense of a need to control, to keep things right, to keep things into the story of perfection, not the truth of perfecting, which I think is a verb that we're always changing and growing. So lavish words are words that they help us laugh at ourselves. And we got plenty of material to laugh at ourselves, I'm sure. Lavish words are about being grateful, really appreciating all the things that are around us. It's about savoring each moment. Life is just so delicious. And it's really stepping into living a life that is juicy, it's messy, but it's alive. It's not stagnant. On the other hand, those stingy words, those are words that limit us. They limit us from our dreams. They help us to hold on to old guilt and shame, nothing that we can do anything about. It was unskilled behavior, and it is time to let it go. Time to let it go. It's about changing our focus from what's missing to what we have. Stingy words are, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that, I can't do this, I can't do that. It's also like, it's like you live by a clock and there's no time for rest because somebody might catch you relaxing. Somebody might catch you being messy or being juicy with life, whatever that might mean for you. And also stingy words are those when we start thinking, I shouldn't, I couldn't, whatever. Oh no, I can't do that, I can't. So it's about us choosing better stories, choosing stories that have lavish words of being in the flow. And this really gets us back to that strength of prayer, those, just like we saw the words of Dr. Emoto having physical influence on the world around us. Denial is acknowledging not that the story didn't happen, but that the story has no power over us in this moment. This situation, these circumstances have absolutely no power over us. And affirming something that is closer to the truth of our being. Things like, we are healthy and whole. This is not to be judged by human standards, but a sense of that power of creation that flows within us. The elders of the Hopi Nation out in Arizona say, banish the word struggle from your vocabulary and your attitude. Banish the word struggle. Because when we get into affirmation, we want to align with the truth that feels in the flow, that feels spacious. There's an affirmation I've learned that I chose to use a long time ago. And it's basically, I have learned all that I need to learn through pain and suffering. I'm still going to learn, but I've given up that I can only learn through pain and suffering. There are other ways to learn. There are other ways to experience, other ways to grow than through pain and suffering. So being really key about what affirmation denials that we choose. There's a wonderful song, Amazing Grace, and it has words that really fit us as a community and as individuals. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. This marks that shift in our stories as individuals and as a community. What a really glorious place that it is to be. So I'm going to share a little slide here for spiritual practice for this week. Try on some new stories about yourself and banish words of struggle. Just as a reminder, there's the difference between words like you fool, which too often we might say to ourselves, and I love you, which are great words to say to ourselves. Try on some new stories. Banish those words of struggle. This is now a time of gratitude celebration. And I want to start by thanking you so much for your committed wholeheartedness to Unity Spiritual Center of Lansing. We have been able to come very close to our budget, a little short, but with the help of the PPP fund and stuff, we've been able to make up any shortages. But it's only through your continued support, donations, and prayers, and enthusiasm and love that this ministry is still vital, is still active in so many ways. And of course, on all the funds that have come in here, we do tithe. And this month, we're supporting Punks with Lunch that help the homeless people, Rise, which supports those in recovery, and the Sunrise Movement that cares about our earth. And as individuals, each of us have had many blessings this week. So I really invite you now to take a moment to think about the good that has come in. Whether it's that beautiful red tree that you happened to see the other day, the phone call you received, just the thing that made your heart happy. As you think about that and celebrate our prosperity, celebrate those evidences that we are in the flow. Let us affirm together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I praise, give thanks, and am glad. That's something we can do every day. Just bless all those wonderful things that come into our life. Well, normally we close out with I Choose Love, but today it's a reprieve of the song we started with. This is a recording from 1987 that I thought you'd enjoy, and you can probably sing along again with it.
I'll always be the perfect me.
You can watch our service in 3 separate parts according to your schedule, or binge watch it all at one time. And if you're watching this on Sunday morning, join us for fellowship on 10:30 on Zoom.